Hello everyone and welcome to today's speed reviews. I'm going to break this video up into two parts because I did not do a speed reviews for July or August. In the beginning of August, or like at the very end of July, I actually took off to fly to California to drive my grandmother across country so I could move her here. So I didn't have time to film that video. So this video is going to include all the products that I tested for July and August. It's a bigger group, not the biggest that I've done, but I do have 60 items. I've got a good variety here. I've got some brand new releases that I've been testing. I did a huge haul of AOA Studio makeup that's usually around the $1 range, really affordable. I did a big haul, so I have a ton of stuff. I'll tell you what I really liked from that haul, and then some of the stuff I just don't even think is worth the $1 really. And then I do have some indie brand stuff in here too. I was trying really hard to get into more things that weren't like eyeshadows from indie brands, so I have quite a few blush and a few highlighters, or at least one highlighter from an indie brand. So it's a decent lot. I'm looking over here of the stuff that I tested for July and August. I even have some new releases that I feel like went under the radar that really no one else was talking about. In these speed reviews, you guys, I give you the breakdown of how I feel about each of these products, whether I think they're good, they're gonna go makeup graveyard, I'll just forget about them in my collection, or whether I'm already decided to pass them on to somebody else because they're just not something that I really like in my collection. I do show you guys cutaways of me putting on literally everything. I really wanted you to see what these look like on. So in part one, I'm gonna go through some items that aren't makeup related, but I did pick them up from AOA Studio. They are still like beauty related. And then I'm gonna talk about all eye products, primers, base products, concealers, setting sprays, mascaras, bronzers. And then in part two, you guys, I will go over all of the blush that I tried for July and August. It's a lot, and there's more still to come because I've still been testing a bunch of new releases, a bunch of different blush formulas. And then I'll also go over lip products in addition to blushes in part two. So I hope you guys stay tuned for part two. If you're not currently subscribed, I'd love to see you subscribe. Now let's get into the speed reviews for part one. Okay, I mentioned there were a couple of beauty related but not makeup items that I tested, and both of these I picked up from AOA Studio. The first one is the Hair Tamer finishing wand. This comes with like a clear gloss or a clear taming gel, and then it comes with a very short bristled plastic molded wand that looks very similar to like a mascara wand. I have actually really been enjoying this. I've been using this mostly on my own because I haven't filmed that much since the beginning of August, but it works great. When I first tried it in the video, I actually thought maybe it was gonna leave my hair like crunchy. I got that sense that it would, because it's a little bit of like a tackier texture, a tackier formula when it goes on, but it dries down completely. It doesn't leave any film or anything on your hair, and I really think it tames the flyaways really nicely. They have other things like this on the market, but the reason that it's like super attractive to me is because I think this was $1.07 or $1.77. That's about the price range for AOA Studio. If you guys haven't seen my video testing the full face of AOA Studio, it is up on my channel if you guys are interested in seeing kind of my first impressions on this stuff. But this is really my roundup. I really do enjoy this. And again, for around $1.77 or $1.88, whatever this costs, it's totally worth it. Plus it's a good product. All right, next up is the Hair Root Color Powder from AOA Studio. Inside, I think it's like a powder in the bottom, and then it comes with like a puff, and the product deposits onto this little puffy when you screw it back in. And initially I really liked this. It was one of those things that wasn't the right shade for me because it was a little bit too light. By the way, I have mine in the shade Dark Blonde. It's just not dark enough. I don't know why I got this shade, but the powder is really good. The formula is really nice. It seems to work really well. Again, for $1.88, not a bad product. I really have fine, thin hair. So there are often times where I'm like having my hair up or something and I want to fill in like the root area. So this ideally would be a good product, but after the first time that I used it, it stinks. It actually smells like fish. It smells, ooh, distinctly like fish. It stinks so bad I'm gonna have to throw this away. I've never had a product like this. Oh my God, smell. But yeah, it smells like rotten fish. So that's an absolute no. The product is nice enough in itself. For the $1.88 that it costs, I would definitely be interested in testing whether or not it was a fluke that started to smell like fish. But you guys, it was so bad. I'm gonna pass. Like I would try a different brand if I was really interested in like a root cover up again. It would not be from AOA Studio. I'm so turned off by how badly that smelled. So That's just garbage for me. No, no, no. Okay, I have one brow product that I tried, and it was also from AOA Studio. It's the Dual Brow Definer. So on one end is a thicker tipped, like diamond shaped pencil, and the other side is one of those microfine pencils. This one is in Taupe, which is a very common shade that I get, although I can go a little bit darker, but I like my brows a little bit lighter than my hair color. I just think it looks more natural. And I like the formula on this. I think the big end is a lot drier, which I kind of like for larger areas. And then the smaller end is much creamier. And I like that too, because that's more like of precision work. And I want it to be a little bit of a more, I don't know, a more emollient formula, I would say. As you may know, if you use taupe shades, they sometimes can tend to lean yellow or orange, and this one leans in the yellow territory. So I think I'll tolerate it through to the end in using this up, but I would not repurchase this shade again. However, I like the formula enough, and because it's $1, and these brow pencils now are like in the $20, $25 range, especially if you're going like Benefit. I think they're at like $25 now for the Precising My Brow. I would be willing to buy another one of these in a different shade to see if I can get like a better undertone, because I did like the formula. I think that both of these were done well enough, and it's a long enough lasting brow pencil that I would try another shade. But this one in Taupe is just yellow. I wouldn't repurchase the Taupe shade again. All right, you guys, let's move on into eye products. A lot of these are from AOA Studio. I was kind of just like getting a bunch of different stuff to test it out, especially because it was $1.77 for a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I think like $1.07. Like some of these were a little bit cheaper. And then even one thing I ended up getting for 25 cents. So, I mean, you guys really should check out some of their stuff, especially the stuff that I recommend is being really good. The first up from the eye category from AOA Studio was the Tacky Base Glitter Eye Primer. This was decent. It's probably not replaced my NYX glitter primer or the Moira Beauty one, but it's good. It's good enough to keep. Definitely something I'll probably hold on to. Again, not a favorite over the Moira Beauty or the NYX, but it's like a comparable formula. It's clear. It does its job. It dries down completely clear. It doesn't pill up or anything like that. I mean, glitter primers kind of only have to do one thing. If they're doing more than that, they're probably just doing too much. So it's decent for the price point. If I didn't have the Moira or the NYX, I would definitely go back and repurchase this because it's good to have on hand. All right, one thing I didn't like was the Super Strip Lash Adhesive from AOA Studio. I'm not a big lash glue girl. I have strictly moved to the Moira 2-in-1 Lash Adhesive because it's a liner plus a glue, and a lot of times when I'm using lashes, I will just throw on a liner, but the liner itself is just so good, and the formula of the adhesive is absolutely fabulous. It's better than any lash glue that I've ever tried, so it makes a lot of these products not stand out for me. They just become like, oh no, not as good as the Moira 2-in-1 Lash Adhesive. Sorry, I like scratched my neck here. Now it's just all hanging out with us. Anyway, this just doesn't compare to the 2-in-1 Lash Adhesive that I have from Moira Beauty. And not just that, I don't think it's good as my Duo Lash Glue. I don't think it's as good as my Sephora Lash Glue. When I use this, it didn't dry down fast enough and the lashes were coming off, so I had to reapply them like several times. So I would just throw this away. Not a product that I would see myself keeping, you know, just in case. It's not useful enough. All right, the last thing that isn't like an eyeshadow, or a single eyeshadow rather, because I don't go over palettes in these videos, was the eyeshadow primer eyeshadow stay from AOA Studio. This is very comparable in formula and in like how sheer this is to the NYX primer. And it has one of those little tiny doe foot applicators. The NYX doesn't have as much tint as this. The NYX is like a little bit clear, but this dries down sheer anyway. So even though it's like a little bit tinted, I don't know if this is in a shade. Yeah, it's just in natural. This actually says $1 on the sticker. I think I actually may enjoy this more than the NYX because I just think it's a little bit of a creamier formula. It still gets tacky, but the NYX is not as, it's like sticky in the tube. It comes out kind of sticky. I don't use a lot of eyeshadow primers, especially like this. My favorite is the Rare Beauty. I just think it does get tacky, but it offers a little bit of coverage, but not too much. where this is just completely sheer. But I would definitely, again, for $1, I would definitely keep this. I could see myself totally using this up. This is not a bad formula at all. All right, let's move on to some single eye products. I have the IT Superhero No Tug Shadow Stick. I think I got this free with purchase. I did not go out and buy this intentionally, although I'm not opposed to trying new eyeshadow stick formulas. It's just that it's not really like my preferred eyeshadow. I would rather go for what's up next, loose pigment, or even like a cream. I'm very picky when it comes to eyeshadow sticks. This formula, I get it. It's called the No Tug Shadow Stick, but it's so creamy, so creamy. And I kind of like that balance of in between. Like it has to be creamy enough, but then blend out. And it's, I think, more about the dry down for me. How quickly does it dry down? Like, does it give you time to blend it in and then it blends seamlessly? And then once it dries, it locks? That to me is kind of like the definition of what a good shadow stick is. Sometimes they get too tacky immediately. And so when you start blending them in, they just get patchy. This just is too creamy, I think. It's on the other end of that. And it kind of blends away to nothing. I think a lot of my shadow sticks that I have decluttered just tend to be on the like too creamy side. You know, once you start rubbing them in, it's like, where do they go? But you have to rub them in, you know, at least a little bit, unless it's something that you're laying like all over the lid. Then I could see you can kind of just like patting it out with your finger. But I don't know, it's just a little too creamy for me personally. So that's definitely something I would pass along. My absolute favorite product is the one that I'm wearing now. This has to be my #1 product that I picked up from AOA Studio. It's one of their loose pigments. This one is in the shade Enchant. It's the gorgeous, like got a good base kind of pigment where it has like a very vibrant top coated glitter. I picked up one, I think that was like $20. It was like the same size and it was from About Face, and I was really excited because it looked very shiny and shimmery with glitters in it inside of the little component here. And then when I got it and I started rubbing it in, all of the glitters dissipated. Like 100%, it just became this like super matte formula. Just like one single solitary color. And I was like, what happened? What happened to all the glitters? What happened to all the shimmers? It was like they broke up and they became like a sheen, which is nice, but not what I was looking for. This is absolutely up there with my Moira Beauty loose pigment that's very similar to this. This one's just more affordable. I really like when there is a nice shiny glitter, whether it's like a gold or a champagne color that's on top of a decent base pigment. That's what this has. It doesn't have one of those sifters in it, which I actually really enjoy now. I think when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's missing a thing, but it's not. I would have liked to have taken all my sifters off anyway, because I really just like putting a brush straight into it. I will use either a glitter glue or primer, or I will spray my brush with setting spray, dip my brush right into it. I just pat it onto the lid and I move on. I kind of blend it out and it's done. I would love to try more shades in this. I don't need more single eye products. I really don't. But I love this so much that if there were like 5 different eye products that I could keep in my collection, this for sure would be one of them. I love it as much as I love or did rave, I think maybe last month about the Moira Beauty one. But I think this beats it just because it's a little bit more affordable. So good, you guys. All right, the last eye product that I have is another one from AOA Studio. This one is the Venetian Romance Creamy Eyeshadow. Probably duping the ColourPop Super Shocks. This one is in Whirlwind. It's a very beautiful shade. It's kind of a duochrome shade where it's gold and it flips pink. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's nice and creamy, but it's more of a satin. It doesn't have any sparkles to it. It's not a shade that has like a decent base pigment and a different color sparkle. That's okay. I mean, it's not my preferred. I guess I was looking for a little bit more. The thing is, I think it's too creamy. This fades off so quickly throughout the day. I shouldn't even say throughout the day. I would say like after 2 hours, a lot of this is faded off of my eyes. It just doesn't have a lockdown that I'm really looking for. Like the ColourPop Super Shocks do. They lock down a lot better than this one. It's just creamy and ultra creamy. So not a thing that I'm probably gonna hold on to. It's a beautiful shade though. It is honestly such a beautiful shade. I just wish the formula lasted longer on my eyes. Okay, let's move on to primers. I have 2 different primers. One is a new release. It's the Oil Sucker Extreme Mattifying Alkaline Primer from One Size. So I've had some time to test this. I've actually had a bit of time to test this. The last behind the camera video that I did was the testing to makeup where I had this, and it had to have been like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I filmed that video. So I've been basically trying to use this every single day up until now, because the first time that I used it, I could tell it was very mattifying, but it didn't help make me less oily as the day went on. But what I was doing was like really moving my face around because I could feel it getting tight. And that's one of the things that this says it does, is tighten your pores. It minimizes them. It makes them smaller. So a lot of people were telling me I was using it incorrectly. So I started to apply it and then I would leave it. I wouldn't make a facial expression. This says for up to 3 minutes. And I think that it's very good for controlling oils. I know that my oils break this up though. Just like throughout the day naturally, I don't stay super mattified forever, but it works really good for the time that it lasts, like maybe 4 hours. What I really loved about this is like pairing it with a mattifying setting spray. Like those two things in combination did such a good job for my oily skin in this heat that I realized that I really do like this product, and there is a way to use this that actually I think increases the performance of it, which by the way, I don't always find. And that's why I'm saying this. There's a lot of products where they're like, here, how to use. And I'm like, I don't give a shit what your instructions say. It doesn't make a bit of difference to me, where I feel like this one actually matters. Like follow Patrick's instructions, because keeping your face still, it actually like sinks into your pores. I don't know. It does a thing. It does a thing. I think it's really good. If you guys have oily skin, I have to recommend this. I didn't enjoy the On Till Dawn primer, which is supposed to help with waterproofing your makeup. I didn't find that at all, especially on a primer, because if I'm putting a foundation on top of it, like what if it's an oil-based foundation? Like that, okay, that kind of negates it. It didn't, I don't know, it just didn't make my makeup waterproof. I feel like I would have had to have used that, a more mattifying foundation. In addition to that, I would have had to have used like Patrick's setting spray. And I think all of those things in combination would have made that primer better. But as a standalone product, I don't think it made my makeup waterproof or me like waterproof necessarily from like the humidity, okay? Just the humidity in general, because it's wet. It's wet outside. It's wet inside in Florida. Anyway, back to this primer. I really did enjoy it, you guys. Again, I think you need to follow the instructions, and I think that pairing it with a more mattifying setting spray is really kind of the sweet spot for this product. The next product up that I have, I'm pretty sure my point of view is going to be unpopular opinion, because I couldn't get this product to work for me. It's the Blurring Balm Powder from Danessa Myricks for face and eyes. I have mine in the shade Universal. I want to show you guys like the dip that I made in here. I've like already panned this, okay? I was taking this little thing and applying as much as the spoonful would allow me to as like the appropriate amount of product to use every time I was using this, okay? And I have even tried like 1 scoop for half the face, which is what I'm doing in this cutaway now. I just find that this is such an emollient product. It's very, very kind of greasy, like oil feeling on my skin. That the contrast between the two primers, the one from One Size and the Danessa Myricks, this doesn't give me mattifying. Now, I think a lot of people use this that have oily skin to smooth things out. Underneath the foundation, they've had great success with how much it smooths their skin, even if it's not a super mattifying product. But I didn't have that either. I didn't get it. I wanted to get it, but my skin wasn't smoother with foundations that I laid on top of it. I tried it with many different foundations, at least 4 different foundations. None of it seemed to make a difference. It didn't mattify me, and I feel like putting it on, I really had to sit like, I don't know, 3-4 minutes to let it sink into my skin before putting anything on top of it, because before it dries down, it's extremely oily. So this wasn't the product for me. Unfortunately, again, I wanted it to be the water powder serum from Danessa Myricks, also didn't do it for me. I hear a lot of people having success with that with oily skin. Didn't do it. Didn't make any difference whatsoever. It left my skin kind of powdery, but it's almost one of those things where you could wear this on top, you know, or the water powder serum on top. It's just not a product that I would do that with. So no, I don't know. I'm probably just gonna pass that along to my sister, see maybe if she has any luck with it. She also has oily skin and she also deals with a lot of texture on her face. Maybe she'll have better luck. I didn't have any, you guys, and I gave it an honest effort. All right, last primer is the Pore Filling Primer from AOA Studio. I don't know if this is like duping anything, but it definitely looks like the old Smashbox packaging. This is just such a different texture. It's so much more emollient. This kind of feels like the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. you know, that kind of gel-like formula. This didn't do anything. It did not blur, pore fill. I didn't do anything on my face, on the back of my hand. You really can't see a difference once this gets rubbed in and like dries down. So this is a wasted $1 or $1.88 or whatever. I didn't enjoy this. I didn't find it do anything. So this is a no for me. Okay, let's move on to foundations. I have two foundations that I tried. Another one from AOA Studio. It's the Soft Matte Foundation. It says Liquid Pump. That's interesting. This one is in the shade L1. It says it's made for all skin types. It's not a full fluid ounce, even though it's pretty affordable. I think this was like one of the most expensive things that I picked up from AOA Studio. I want to say this was $4, like $4 even. It's supposed to be a blendable, flawless finish. I actually really liked this. This compares to a lot of my high-end foundations that does give very smooth, very medium coverage, soft matte finish. I don't even mind that there's less than an ounce in here, which is very standard for something that's $4. This has to be the most affordable foundation I currently have in my collection. I do really like it. I think that the wear test, again, the couple of times that I tried it was so good with my Moira Beauty new Ultra Matte Setting Spray. Even some of my other mattifying setting sprays, it works really well with. I don't think it looks overly matte, but I think this is a foundation that would work for a lot of people because it is very soft matte. It's not too heavy covered. It's kind of a whipped texture. Like it doesn't move once you pump it out, but it's such a thin formula. So it blends right into the skin, which I really like. And it's not overly tacky. It's very middle of the road between emollients and a tackier formula, something that really grips to the skin. Sometimes that's more of a mattifying or more full coverage foundation for me. So anyway, all that to say, I really did enjoy this. It's not one I'm reaching for like all the time, especially this time of year, because I'm looking for so many more mattifying foundations during the summertime, or Florida summertime, you know, it goes on till the end of the year basically. Although they said we're gonna have like an earlier like autumn this year, so let's hope that's true. So I'm not reaching for something like this right now so much, but I definitely would see myself reaching for this like in the autumn time, you know, when it starts to cool down, like the humidity dies down a little bit and I'm not grabbing for such mattifying foundations. But it's such a good soft matte, really blendable formula, so I could just see it working for a lot of different skin types. Okay, I did try the Viral Tear Cushion Foundation, Red Cushion Foundation, and mine is in the shade 21C Cool Ivory. I think this is a really good shade match to me, but I have a couple of thoughts on this, and I think you guys would be interested to hear what I think. I think I know why this is viral. I think it's this puff. I think it's all in the puff, I really do. I have tried this foundation using just a sponge or dipping my brush into it, and it didn't last. I didn't like the finish of it on my skin. I didn't really care for it or think that it was a standout foundation anytime I didn't use this puffy. And I've never used anything like this before to apply my foundation. And I think that's really what I don't hear a lot of people talking about when they talk about this foundation, is that this is the genius here. This is the applicator. This presses it into your skin. It honestly makes it look super flawless. Like whatever this material is absolutely genius. Like I would use this for all of my foundations. I really would. The first time I tried this, I pushed in like too much product onto the puffy and I layered this so thick on my face. I really didn't like the way that it looked. And if you drug it down instead of patting it into your face, it would like lift some of the product. It almost became streaky. You couldn't drag down like the creases of your face, like around your nose. You really have to pat every single, I can't say stroke, but every time you put this on, you have to pat it into your face. I really think it's the puff and it's the application. The formula also, because it's a cushion, it's very emollient, it's very liquidy. It's very pattable. I can't call it blendable, but it's very pattable. It sinks in pretty fast. It is pretty high coverage right off the bat, but it's not super matte. It has this like kind of radiance, a little bit of luminosity before it dries down. It's even like maybe a slight bit radiant for being super full coverage. So it's a good product in and of itself, but I do not love it without this puff. I love it applying it with this puff and this puff only. So if you guys are interested in checking this out and you like maybe a more full coverage product, I don't care what kind of skin type you have. I honestly think this would work for dry skin. I don't know that for sure, but I just don't think it's an overly dry formula. So I think it would work for people that had dry skin, and me being like combo oily, I think it works really good. I think without the puff and pressing it into your skin or whatever this thing is, maybe not a puff, I don't think it lasts as long on my face. So really good. I can see why it went viral. I can see how some people might not like it though, because it's a little bit more full coverage, but you know, you can go in with less product. It's possible. It is possible. It's definitely a customizable formula, I think. At least in my trying and testing this. So anyway, those are my thoughts, you guys. I actually do really enjoy that, but I don't enjoy it without the puff. All right, I have two different concealers. Another one from AOA Studio. It's the Locked Creamy Concealer. This one is in a very cool shade, but it's too dark for me. It's an LC2. It's one of like the smaller doe foot applicators. It's such a creamy formula, just like it says, that it glides on. It never cakes, it never creases. It's really a nice concealer, and I love how cool toned this is. The only thing that I don't love about this, and the reason that this would be makeup graveyard for me, is because it's very light coverage. I think it's a buildable formula, which is very hard to do well, I think. I think layering concealers, because they, I think, are meant to be a little bit more tacky, or even in some cases they can be a little bit more high coverage. They're not generally something that I will layer or find that you can layer without them looking too heavy. This is one that you can definitely layer. But the thing is, I don't care to. I would prefer to use a more medium coverage concealer right off the bat, or even one that's full coverage that's on the creamier side. So not a bad product, just very light coverage in my opinion. But if you are looking for something affordable that offers cool tone shades, that's a good option. All right, the next one that I have is a new release from Danessa Myricks. It's the Yummy Skin Lift and Flex Concealer for Eyes and Face. This one is in the shade 4. This one is also too dark for me. I don't know why I got this in a 4, because I've tested some of her other complexion products in a 4 before and they were too dark. So I just keep reading the description and thinking that this is correct. But 4 is also too warm too. And I'm pretty sure that 4 says light with neutral undertones, but it's so warm toned on me. It's just not, I don't think, neutral at all. Anyway, back to the formula. I think it's a tackier formula, and I do think that it takes a minute to dry down. It's kind of like radiant under the under eyes because it's still so tacky and wet. Before it like dries down, it takes a minute, but then after that, it's kind of a soft matte finish. I think this is truly medium coverage. I don't think this is a buildable formula because it's a little bit of a thicker concealer. I even tested this using it all over the face to see if it was like a concealer / base product that I could take with me traveling. I didn't like it. I think it definitely was too dry all over the face, surprisingly enough, just because it's a little bit of a thicker formula. So it's decent, but if you guys are looking for a really thin, very emollient concealer that gives medium coverage, this is not it, in my personal opinion. It's a thicker medium coverage that has decent lasting power but isn't buildable. So I don't know, this is definitely not my favorite concealer in my collection. Like I mentioned, I like something really creamy that's medium coverage. So this one wasn't that. All right, we're moving right along to powders. I have two powders. Both of them are from AOA Studio. The first one that I want to talk about is the Flawless Setting and Finishing Loose Powder, and this is a dupe for the Givenchy Mini. This one is in the shade Fair. I really don't like this. This is just an absolute no for me. I have tried it multiple times. You guys will see in the cutaway. Because it has like the color correcting shades in here, the blue, the pink, the purple, and the green. I mean, it's supposed to color correct, but this just turns my skin green. Like the green is such the dominant color in this powder that that's all I see is just a green cast every time I use it. I think it actually adds like a decent amount of coverage, very minimal, but it does add some coverage, and it is very smoothing on the skin, but it just leaves that green tinge, and it's not supposed to do that. The Givenchy one that I have, it's not the color correcting shades. I have it in, I think, shade 2 or light 2 or something like that. That powder doesn't have any color. Like it doesn't leave a cast on my face, and this one does. So this is not a good dupe. This is one that I will just pass along. I'm not going to keep that in my collection. The next one that I have is also, like I told you guys, from AOA Studio. It's the Perfect Setting Powder, and this one is supposed to be brightening, just in the shade Brightening. I didn't like this powder either. I don't even think this powder is as good as the Flawless Setting Powder from AOA Studio, meaning that it doesn't offer any coverage at all, and it's not really mattifying either. It kind of looks like it does nothing. So like if you like to brighten like a little bit, because it's kind of a peachy shade, like a very light peach shade, and if you like something because you have dry skin, this might be good, but This was so meh to me that, again, not something that I will hold on to. Not worth the $1.88 in my opinion. All right, let's move on to setting sprays. I have one from AOA Studio and one from Moira Beauty that's a new release. So the setting spray from AOA Studio is called Lock in Your Makeup. That's basically it. Non-drying, matte finish, lightweight, and paraben free, and it has a mister on it. So extremely good mister, very light, doesn't have like a rougher spray in the beginning and then it becomes misty at the end. I'll talk about one that does that. Tremendously nice spray. Kind of smells good too. It's a very light, like summery scent. Not super strong perfumey, and I actually think it does a decent job. I mean, I'm into like a more mattifying setting spray. I just like the way that this feels and it's not sticky on the skin. What setting spray is sticky? I want to say it's one from like Benefit. One of those was like one that locked down my makeup, but it was so sticky on my face. This is just like non-drying and not sticky and has a really good sprayer and smells delicious. And it's $1. It's $1. It's $1. And how much product is in here? 2.5 fluid ounces. So not bad. I really enjoyed that. This one from Moira Beauty is the Ultra Matte Setting Spray. All day mattifying and shine proof. I also really like this. I think it's way better in terms of the formula and its like lasting power to the AOA. But like it's such an intense sprayer that you gotta like really hold it back. The front part of the spray that comes out of the tip here just is pretty intense and it will leave like the big droplets on your face, which I'm just not a huge fan of. This one is like the sticky kind. So it takes a while to dry down. It's kind of one of those that I like hate spraying and I hate letting it dry down. But then when it does, it actually does a really good job. And Moira Beauty is really good with like mattifying. This one comes with 3.38 fluid ounces. I really do enjoy this one. Both of these I'm going to hold on to. I liked them. I could really see myself using those up for sure. Let's move on to mascaras. I have two mascaras. Both of them are from AOA Studio. And I did a mascara declutter pretty recently and I talked about these. And I said that I was going to declutter both of them because I didn't like them. But I did say this and I'm so glad that I did, that if one of them dried out or both of them dried out a little bit more, I may enjoy them more as the formula tends to change when it dries out. And I did. So the first one is the AOA Studio Big Boss Mascara. It's for volume and length. I hated this at first because it didn't have a lot of pigment. It was just too slippy and I wasn't seeing the volume. It has one of those molded plastic bristle wands, but it's thick, which I do like. Like I don't mind if it's a thicker actual wand itself, just as long as the bristles aren't too long. I really don't like that. First time I tried it, I told you guys, didn't like it. As it started to dry out, I actually really enjoy this mascara. It's one that I feel like actually kind of comes close to some of my favorites. It's definitely not as tacky of a formula as some of my favorites because I prefer something that really grips to the lashes and just like slaps the pigment on there. But I still think it's a really pigmented mascara in and of itself. It's very medium weight. So it's not as lightweight as a lengthening mascara, for example. It's more kind of in the middle for both, and I think it does a good job in giving volume and length. I think for $1.77, if you're somebody who enjoys both volume and length, this is a decent mascara to test out. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I might repurchase this. So that's how I feel about that one. But my thoughts on the other mascara, the Fat Lash from AOA Studio, did not change. I don't like this wand. Something is going on. It's just not catching all of the product. Like, it's not coming off of the wand. It's like stuck on the very top of it and it's very clumpy and goopy and I don't enjoy the formula. It's like super sticky but kind of dry, you know? You're not hearing any pop and it just kind of like makes a mess coming out. So I don't enjoy this mascara at all. Again, thoughts didn't change. Not something that I would want to keep. Again, for $1, it's just gonna go in the trash. I will not be needing to hold on to that. I won't be enjoying using it if I kept it, so I want to give love to the ones that I love. That one is just, it's not it, guys. It's not it. All right, guys, let's move on to bronzers for the final category. I have one new release, I have one from an indie brand, and I have one from AOA Studio. So let's go in that order. The new release is from Ilia. It's the Sunshift Cream Bronzer, and I got mine in the shade Ray, which I actually think is the second to lightest shade. The lightest shade has like a peach undertone to it, where mine is like a golden undertone. This was not what I expected, especially from Ilia. It's a drier cream formula, and that I guess I expected, but how metallic it is, I did not expect. I didn't expect Ilia to come through with this kind of like golden metallic finish. Very shimmery, but more than shimmery, it's straight up metallic. I love a cream formula when it's on the drier side because it's easier to control, I think. It locks into the skin or onto the skin a little bit better than a more emollient formula. It lasts longer and you can apply quite a bit of it without it kind of looking too much. So I really enjoyed this formula overall. And even though I wasn't expecting it to be a more metallic finish or a metallic color, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I like it on the forehead and I like it on the cheeks because I don't think it's too intense. It is what it is, but it's just not overdone. So I really enjoyed this formula. I did. And I think it's actually more punchy than I was giving credit to Ilia for doing. Unlike their highlighter, which I'll talk about in part 2. So if you're interested in seeing that, you guys, stay tuned or check back for part 2, where I think that's just a little bit more subtle than this. Really enjoyed this, you guys. I'm definitely holding on to this bronzer. I really liked that. All right, now for the bronzer from the indie brand. This is from Rebel Rouge Labs. I bought this because it was like marketed as like a bronzer blush hybrid, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Plus I've been trying more things from indie brands that aren't eyeshadows. I told you guys that. But when I got it, I was like, oh no, it's really, really warm looking. It's very orange. It's got a lot of orange swirls in here. And I thought I wasn't gonna like it. But it ended up being like a truly hybrid formula. It's not something that I would use as just a bronzer. I would use this all over the cheeks as a standalone because it's a orangey, peachy shade with sheen to it. So maybe more so than I would wear in a bronzer, especially on the forehead. So this is a standalone for me. All over the cheeks. I love it all over the cheeks just as a standalone. I don't know what shade this is in because on the back of it, it's just the big Rebel Rouge Labs sticker and it doesn't have a shade. So I'm sorry, but if I'm able to find the shade, I will list it in the description box for you guys because I'm sure I can find the receipt of the shade that I purchased. Anyway, the packaging, it looks like it's older than it is. And I only got this 2 months ago. It got scratched pretty quickly. I don't know what that is about. But the formula is great. I think this is just a pressed powder formula. I don't think this is baked, especially because it gives like quite a bit of product that picks up on the brush. It's pretty pigmented, but it's just a great formula overall. It's very smooth on the cheeks and the finish of it is lovely. And for fair skin tones, whatever shade this is, and I'll list in the description box, is honestly great as a dual product. Like truly, 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 I don't have anything else like this in my collection that does both things that I actually really enjoy. Like swipe it on the cheek, I'm done. I don't care for any other product that way as much as I do this one. And I was shocked. I didn't think that that was going to be the case. I was a little skeptical, I guess. All right, the last bronzer is from AOA Studio. It's the Perfect Bronzing Powder, and this one is in the shade Frappe. It's a lightweight matte finish, and I love lightweight matte finishes. I think lightweight matte finish bronzers are great, and I love when they're neutral. And this one is pretty neutral. I think it definitely is a little bit deep for like the lightest shade. If they could have gone lighter, I think this is the lightest shade. But it's so good, like neutral. It's not a cool tone, it's a neutral tone, but it's not too warm. And you know, you just need that. You just need that in your life sometimes. And I've had bronzers like this in the past. Like e.l.f. makes one that's very similar, but this is cheaper. So there you go. If you like a neutral, lightweight matte powder bronzer, that's a great one from AOA Studio. And by the way, everything from AOA Studio, if you spend over $35, I believe is free shipping. I think in the continental US. I don't know if they do international shipping, but anyway, I thought I would mention that to you guys. That is the end of part 1 for my speed reviews of the 60 products that I tested for July and August. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you stick around for part 2. I'm out of here for today, you guys. I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye for now.